I'm Rosalind Goldberg, and I'm from Norway. Grew up in Sweden, and I'm living in Berlin. I'm a choreographer, and now we are at Casino. We are going to present Meet here tonight, and it was premiere on Monday, 2 days ago. And Meet is a solo performance for the dancer Anne-Mareike Hess, and the composer Camilla Baratue is making sound live to this performance. The work started 2012 in Berlin with me and Anne-Mareike, and we worked within a time frame of 9 months, but only for 11 weeks in total. So it was lots of gaps in between our meetings. And Camilla joined for 6 weeks. And we also worked with a costume designer from Sweden called Alexander Krantz, who was part of the work for half a year before the premiere. And Meet was premiered in Sweden at Weld in Stockholm. Meet is a name, and this work is a practice. It started from a practice where I was interested in how body can be formed and presented on stage. And working within that practice, it suddenly became a character that got the name Meet. And Meet is a fantasy name. It doesn't exist. It was the name that suited that character. And I was mainly interested in how when the body is placed in a context that is not a social known context, rather imagined, composed, founded context, and absolutely, Anne-Mareike constantly needs to concentrate on many things at the same time, so it is a multi-attentive practice mainly. So she's unable to actually think about how she is presenting herself. She's absolutely busy within the practice that she's doing, and that is constantly forming her. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's going through different air landscapes. That's her imagination. That's not necessarily something that needs to be visible, but what is, there are different circumstances and different context mainly, which are either moving her or she is moving them in different ways, which produces a certain time and a certain relation to time. So I can imagine that this maybe produces these waves that you are talking about. I'm not sure. But that can also differ, because part of the practice is also Anne-Mareike's interest in the imagination. So it's also the possibility of being bored and finding a way into the place where she's at. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes takes time. And then she's sometimes also looking around in order to find a way or an interest to get into the practice again. Mm-hmm. So it is this thing of being, again, very overloaded or multi-attentive, and then losing concentration and giving that also time, and then finding a way into the practice again. So I think this, like, the being busy and then being busy without not really knowing what to focus on, and then suddenly know very much what to focus on, gives this ups and downs in relation to times or speed, and sometimes stillness maybe. Mm-hmm. work actually came out from a project that I did before, together with two choreographers that I have been working with very much, Stina Nyberg and Sandra Lolax. And we did a project called Fake Somatic Practices, which was mainly based on also the question of what is body and how do we present body and how do we form body through the body training we are going through. And looking at the somatic practices being founded by one person and a very subjective relation to a body. And we got inspired by this very concrete tool of like I can form my own practice, which is giving a specific logic in which a body can function, which are also producing then an understanding of body. And after doing that project, where I also created my own practice, I continued for this project to think about I want to create a new body again. So that's why I, through actually imagination, wanted to use the base for a practice that could become a choreography. So it was maybe not so much about practice as choreography, but more practice as something that is forming body again, and how that in its turn becomes a time, and that becomes the choreography in the end. Yeah. Coming to the oil, that was also something where I wanted to invite the audience to this touch, skin practice that Anne-Mareike is doing. So this 5 minutes in the beginning when she's like putting oil on her body very carefully as a preparation. I wanted also to make visible that touch that she almost have to like sensibilize her skin in order to feel these different air layers that she is in. And then it's constantly visible throughout the piece. Shinzi is like having this shimmering skin that is mainly like putting a focus on it. And then her costume, which is also plastic silk, which is also almost a little bigger, and we have something dark under. Was this thing of like having almost in some lights more than one body, that this see-through plastic silk t-shirt and short costume could become like an outer body, and the dark tighter clothing under was like a second body. So also this thing of like being many body within one body, depending on in what layer you are in or in what context you are in. So this thing of like what is a body here or what is a body in this context, that this can also change like within a very short amount of time. So this about the costume mainly, and then the sound is very important too. Camilla is doing live sound. She's following Anne-Mareike constantly. So it's like, even though the audience is not seeing Anne-Mareike, and many think that it is a soundtrack, but it's this more thing of like like making the air layers audible. So you hear like the resistance within one air layer and the other resistance within another air layer. So there is temperature and there is resistance, which is affecting her body mainly. So it's this idea of foiling that we took from film, of like that it's like to make it almost like überdeutlich, like to really emphasize on this is this air layer and this situation, and it makes this sound, and this is the other context and it makes this sound. And I think through the sound meet for Anne-Mareike it becomes this situation which sometimes are clear and recognizable. It's like, yeah, a situating possibility through the sound, and sometimes not understandable or confusing or not known somehow. And then in the end, it's like this last situation where she's in when she suddenly is like hearing sound. Before she was only doing sound, and suddenly she can hear sound, and she's like affected by the sound in this air layer, which also like makes almost like a drug effect on her, where all the air layers is inside her body instead of outside. So this, where also then suddenly pleasure can come in, when she's not like only bound to the situation, but suddenly can like enjoy being in a situation. So this development of the character, like getting another possibility of living or another notion of living almost. That I got interested in, like putting this character in another situation, like around lots of objects, or like how if this character would sing, how would it sing, how would it sound, or if it would be other people also doing this character, like a Matt and the Met and like other people also being in the room, how are they interacting? So this could be like I got interested in developing this work to create almost like a social situation from this like imaginary situation somehow. That's what I'm interested in. What is happening when meat is interacting with a mat? Yeah.